Good morning, everybody. We are going to take a slightly different detour than we normally do for our intros this morning. We are, once I can get all this up and running, we are going to be joined by a good friend of ours who is experiencing something pretty relevant. So I'm just going to see if I can combine them. Yeah, there you are. There you are. We got you on. We're joined by Greg Ried, Maxwell Ried from Auction Ready. Tell people what's going on.
Yeah, so I own an industrial auction company. We travel the country, setting up sales all over the world. And this time I had one of my Detroit-based workers out in South Carolina doing a project for us. And while out there, in the middle of this Black Lives Matter thing, he was tapped this morning while eating breakfast and told that he needs to leave the hotel. That the staff on site, the night staff on site, would feel comfortable if he wasn't at their facility anymore. That blew me away. I called the hotel, asked them what's going on here. They said, unfortunately, they've had problems with him, that he was caught smoking in his room, and that was on a Friday. This is a Monday. They never gave him a warning. They never called me. They never made us pay a fine. Nothing happened from that because it was all BS. What happened was they just don't want him in the hotel. Racism is prevalent all over this country still, and it's a problem. I feel like I don't even have a voice. My friend, employee, is in a horrible situation right now in South Carolina, getting booted from a hotel, and I feel like I can't do anything about it. So, this is why you go to social media. You come to people like you, Six, and your awesome programming to try to get the word out there that this stuff can't happen anymore. This isn't the world that we live in, and it's got to stop somehow, some way. Holiday Inn in Greenwood, South Carolina, you're bad people, and you set a bad example for the country and for the world.
It's a pretty intense thing to think that, like you say, it's just so prevalent right now, and that you feel like pretty helpless. It's like I honestly don't even know, how to kind of comment on it, because we are, being in Canada, a lot of people feel that we are kind of in a different situation up here. But, this does. It directly affects you. It affects, your kind of livelihood, the way that you're feeling, the way that your workers are feeling. And I think it's just pretty harsh. So I wanted to take some time out for you to be able to say what was happening to you first person, instead of me saying a friend and trying to relay stories. You put a post out this morning, and honestly, once your worker is probably safe and out of the area, advise posting. I mean, it's Holiday Inn, so you can call their American corporate headline or headquarters. You can probably start to call that location, but we can use our voice and our words to hopefully affect some change. So,
and that, I just got one more thing to say too. That's another thing that's hard for me is, as an employer and trying to employ employees all over the country, I shouldn't have to, should I put a black person in this state? Or should I put a white person here instead of a black person? I shouldn't even have to say that. There shouldn't be a color situation in this world at all. It saddens me and it breaks my heart that this is the world we live in, and it's got to change.
Agreed. Well, unfortunately, this is the way that we had to have you on our show the first time, but I do hope that when you're home, we can sit and talk in a whole different way and kind of catch up. But you be safe.
Man, I appreciate it.
You're very welcome, man. You be safe. Have your workers be safe, and we'll see you back here soon.
Thank you very much. Take care, guys.
Take care.
Have a great day.
All right. Well, that was kind of the first time we've rolled a little bit like that, but Justice and I have also been talking with somebody else in the city about, possibly producing some political podcasts for them. These are things that are happening around us, and it gets kind of harsh. So we are going to slide into the rest of our show today and listen to my cats fight here in the kitchen in the background.
Yeah, my dog, I keep muting my mic because Rose, my dog, is losing her mind down the hall.
Oh, jeez. So yeah, we are going to get to our video here. And I believe in our description, we also have a link to their
Starter, yeah.
their Kickstarter for for this album. So this is a good friend of ours, Christopher Marentet, who's helped us out a lot with technology and kind of some geek stuff. This is J sharp major.
ourselves a human garden, precious seeds for some master plan. But the brain we go, and we keep provoking. We're running out of arable land.
was J Sharp major, and the link to their funding is in our description. We are joined finally this morning by our good old friend, or young friend, Nicholas Robinson. How you doing?
Old.
Yeah, that's a bad.
Old in the description.
Yeah. In the friend world, old. In the world, young.
Maybe not as old. So Nick, how you doing? How's COVID been treating you?
COVID. Well, it's COVID, but otherwise, been pretty good.
Well, it's COVID.
Good.
Like, it's horrible that this is just now becoming a thing, right? I was listening to my friend David Morin play the other day, and he's like, so during, the COVID, it was kind of like, now it's just this kind of this period. It's like the Depression. It's pretty much it.
Yeah.
So.
It's like the Great Depression, the Civil Rights Movement, the Spanish flu, all of them right at once. Ben Folds wrote a song about it.
Yeah,
good.
I think maybe this is just our new culture of binging. We have to binge all of the world's problems all at once, and then hopefully there's a good ending. So, Nicholas,
Yes.
First of all, we could talk about where you're sitting, but I don't even want to do that. I want to talk about this leather stuff that you were doing. When did you start picking up leather? You started making these little wallets and these little packages and these little neat things, and I bet you've got one there.
This is the one I've been carrying for 5 months or so.
Like when we were first hanging out, I would have been worried about like giving you a knife, but now look at what you can produce with it.
Yeah.
So you started a little company during the COVID, hey? Like this kind of little project?
Yeah, so it was a couple months before COVID I started working on leather stuff. Main inspiration for it was I hated my super chunky wallets, and I wanted to make something slim that would just hold my cards because I don't really carry cash. And yeah, super slim.
Yeah, you got to start making ones that hold these kind of cards,
Oh yeah, well I could do that.
So we could have fancy photo geeky leathery satchels.
Is that what we're just commissioning now? That's surprise, Nick. That's what this interview is.
Surprise even more. We aren't commissioning. We're just asking you to make them.
Oh, that's even funnier.
That is even funnier.
But I actually do kind of want to talk about where you're sitting, because that genuinely might be the most interesting thing about you. What? Sorry.
So where are you sitting?
Okay. So I am sitting in it's a 1977 Travelux President's 31-foot aluminum trailer that I've been slowly converting over COVID into my tiny house.
And why the inspiration for this? Like, what sort of got this going?
So for one, I'm currently living up in Kitchener, and real estate prices up here are insane, and I was really sick of renting because I don't own anything, right? I don't own what I live in, and that was kind of getting to me. So I thought, I started by watching those Tiny House Nation shows, which are a little cheesy, but it got me thinking about it, and so.
How long did this project take you, though? I mean, as opposed to some of those, again, you're watching the documentaries on these tiny houses, and some of these people are going into like a year and 2 year, 18-month projects.
Oh, yeah. I was super concerned when I first bought it too, because I was like, "Oh, what am I getting myself into?" Like, I wanted to get into it in be living in it in a couple months. So I was worried, I hope I can get it done. But then, I bought it a couple weeks before COVID hit, and then COVID hit. I was like, sweet, I got all this time back.
So really,
what would you say were your biggest challenges in repairing it, and what came sort of naturally, what came easily?
So the biggest thing was our budget, because we, are not made of money. And I, again, with those tiny house shows, they don't really mention it, but they end up spending a lot more money than it's really worth. Because they'll spend $250,000 on a tiny house. It's well, if you have the money, why aren't you living in a house? It is a lifestyle thing too. Living tiny isn't just about money. It's minimalism. But yeah, I think our biggest challenge was our budget. We were constantly working around it and like trying to, you know, update everything in here, but, you know, without going overboard.
Of course.
Yeah.
What about the flip side? What was like the most joyful, the best?
I guess just finally seeing it come along. And during the process, I was trying to like finish a lot more of the interior things and less of like the mechanicals, just because I wanted to see what it would look like when it was done. But yeah, I think that getting the interior kind of buttoned up, which it's still not completely done, but we're living in it. So
would it be possible for us to get a little like a tour?
Yeah, it's a little bit of a mess, but there's the kitchen. Yeah, I just got my stove put in. It's all working. There's the living area. That's fairy lights. The teal wasn't my choice as the girlfriend, but yeah, I can live with it. And then we got 2 twin beds,
nice.
A cat.
Aw.
And then the thing I spent my most time on, which was the bathroom. Subway tile bathroom. And then, here, I'll give you an outside look at it too. I just got the
Yeah, how long is the whole trailer?
It's 31 feet from tongue to bumper.
Okay.
Oh, wow.
So that's the awning out there.
Wow. Yeah, that's really quite something, isn't it?
Well, okay, so let's talk. And not only, let's talk the minimalism first. No, screw it. I'm going to flip my questions around. So you got a tiny home, and you want to live minimal. Well, where the hell are you parking this thing? Where are you actually living with this tiny home right now?
So at first we thought we were going to be parking it at Cassidy's family's property. They have a decent-sized property, but bylaws wouldn't allow it. And during that process, we found out that it's actually a lot harder to park a trailer and live in it full-time legally than I thought. But through that process, we found out that it's allowed for agricultural properties, so like for farmhands and stuff like that, to allow for like secondary dwellings on an agricultural property. So we found a farmer who had extra space on his farm, and we parked it there. We paid a little bit for, you know, utilities and whatnot, but
are you hooked up to like city water and city sewage? How yeah, that's very interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, see, I was kind of interested about that, the bylaw. I mean, you're not Windsor. Windsor is, I think, kind of going through some of the discussion of tiny houses and legalizing the way that you can kind of break up properties. When I still lived in Vancouver in probably 2010, they were starting to change the way that the bylaws and the way that properties could be developed. And they started to allow things, they called them like lane houses. So they were essentially the garage that was in the back of the house that backed up onto the alley. You were then able to convert those into living spaces. But I know, as you know, when you kind of move here, the climate of the city is different. You get different opportunities and, you know, different bylaws, different restrictions. So I was pretty curious, like, as to, you know, what that bylaw would be. And it's really weird that you can't just pull that into somebody's driveway and live in that full time. Even if they have a large property, you can't do that. So the amount of restrictions on, you know, what you can do with your own property are sometimes pretty restrictive. So I'm kind of interested to see where this city goes with the idea of tiny homes or lane houses, especially given that the properties aren't that large at all. Like, we don't have, you know, I mean, I'm sure in different parts of the city there are some larger properties, but, you know, generally where you would want to build the tiny homes, or where you would see like lane houses being built, are usually in kind of that city core, or over by like where the university would be and that sort of stuff. So just interesting, but it was awesome that you found that loophole. And so now you're going to start farming, right?
Well, I've got a little bit of a garden going.
Yeah?
What are you growing?
I got some squash, some beans, some carrots, and some sunflowers.
Oh,
Hardcore.
nice.
Yeah.
Well, you see, start little and just slowly take over that land.
There is a big empty field right next to us. So.
Yeah.
You can grow as many squash as you want.
Yeah, there you go.
So what else been kind of keeping you busy during COVID? What else have you been up to other than, really like making your dwelling and figuring that out?
Well, recently we've been working on moving ourselves out of the townhouse we were living in, which it's basically been this and that. Like we've been so busy doing the two of those things. It's been keeping us busy.
What are you looking forward to after COVID? What do you guys, you're still in phase 2 up there as well, right? We're all...
They just moved to phase 3.
Son of a bitch, we're left behind again.
Yeah.
Honestly, if I may, dip my soapbox for a minute, totally fine with that because, I don't know if you've looked at the graphs or the charts or, the virus isn't gone. Just because the government says you can go outside doesn't mean it's safe.
Yeah. And Kitchener still has masks mandatory, which, yes, please.
Yeah.
But I find it that if they're going to be moving to phase 3, just hold off until it's
better.
Better. Yeah.
Yeah.
How do you feel?
It's interesting to kind of see how this is sort of all unfolding, isn't it?
Yeah.
How have you been feeling up there with the way that things are going, you guys? I mean, you're obviously out on a farmland, so I mean, you're feeling pretty.
Yeah, that's nice.
You've got a good buffer zone.
Pretty secluded. Yeah.
But how is?
But yeah, anytime I go out for groceries, it's I panic a little because people just aren't. They aren't social distancing as they should. I think people get this false sense of security that we're in stage 3 now, and they think, oh yeah, I'm just gonna brush shoulders with these people and that's fine. I think Windsor is honestly doing a little bit better when it comes to listening to what they're supposed to be doing.
It's have you seen one of the things that I've started seeing that has become, I think, more common, because I think this has sort of always been a trend, but old people throwing temper tantrums at the grocery store.
Oh yeah.
I know I should.
Are you talking about me?
No, Nix, I'm not talking about you. I'm talking about the very, very angry old man at Freshco 2 weeks ago who genuinely couldn't understand the concept of having to wait in a line. It was and then my question was the grocery stores have been operating on this weird line system basically since COVID hit. So my genuine question was has this dude just not been grocery shopping since the virus hit? How did you get this far?
Yeah. I had a pretty close call of being that kind of crazy old guy in the grocery store when I witnessed a guy who wasn't wearing a mask, which they're again mandated here. Wasn't wearing a mask and was strolling through the produce with literally 2 little tiny bags of produce, no basket, no nothing, just enjoying his day and kind of whistling. And then all of a sudden he kind of stops for a second and bends over, and I realize what he's going to do, and he picks up a lemon off the ground and kind of tosses it into the air and then sets it right back onto the shelf with the other food. And I was like, dude, not your, number one, you don't even want to wear a mask. Number 2, don't pick up food off the ground or the floor and put it back on. And he looked at me and he goes, well, this is the same that the workers would do. And I looked at him and I was like, well, then leave it for the workers and let me yell at them. But of course, I had somebody who was, maybe just a smart individual, kind of came over to me and was like, hey, you just go on about your day, And I was like, okay, good. I don't want to be that guy that's on video flipping out. I mean, it's a very fine line right now. And tempers or even emotions outside of the house, emotions all around are really, really, they're at a breaking point. Everybody's a little bit stressed. It's an anxiety issue now. I've talked about this a little bit during, I didn't really feel like I had a lot of anxiety issues, but, when you start thinking about people standing a little bit too close behind you, you're in the middle of allergies. I also have allergies. So there's people that are sniffling and kind of coughing and you don't know what the hell it is. And you're just just wear a mask, give me 6 feet. A little bit of being compassionate, conscientious, just give me a bubble. Give me a little bubble. But I hope that this stuff does calm down. And, you know, I hope with what we're seeing with phase 3, you know, have they noticed, I guess it's just phase 3 now. I mean, we have plenty of friends that are in Vancouver, so we're also kind of connected with what's going on in Vancouver, and they've been seeing a little bit more of a spike again, and there were maternity wards that were hit in hospitals, you know, with now sick babies. So the virus is, you know, it doesn't be like, okay, you guys are in phase 3, we'll move over to this phase 2 area, and we're going to concentrate on this population over here. It's still out there, and it's still, you know, a pretty risky thing to be thinking that it's just over. So, you know,
in order to like kind of bring it back from the brink there, Nick, why don't you tell us a little bit about what you're up to sort of every day to keep yourself optimistic? How are you maintaining your hope?
I don't know. I've been trying to keep myself occupied with just being productive, doing different things here and there. I've recently started doing a lot more graphic design work, just practicing with that.
I was going through our like messenger photos, and I was looking at hold on, Six. If I send this to you, can you pull it up?
Which one is it?
It's the dive suit. So I started scuba diving, and part of my, you know, special interests sort of include like old dive suits. So I sent Nick a picture of an old dive suit, and he drew it for me. It's very special. It's very, very good. I love it so much.
oh geez, and the snorts. See, this is when we know Justice is having a good time. The snort count goes up, and we're waiting.
We'll all be having a really good time as soon as
this loads. Yeah.
This dive suit drive.
Oh, that's funny. Oh. We're still waiting. You know, this is what happens.
Yeah,
this is what happens when you like.
The more build up there is, all the punchlines.
Stream in HD. Oh, okay. And it's now coming up in full. There we go.
Oh my god.
Heck.
I'm so excited.
I really think that honestly, you should probably stop the leather stuff and just go straight to designing wetsuits.
Just draw dive suits. Yeah.
Draw dive suits. Justice, is that your eyes in there? Kind of.
Yeah, that's me. 100%. That's you know, famous for my big bright blue eyes.
Yeah.
So Nick, can you tell us a little bit about your graphic design? Because obviously this dive suit was a silly little thing you did for me, but what are you doing sort of outside of entertaining your friends?
So I'm trying to get into like more of like minimal logo design. That's like what I want to start like pushing towards. And I've found Reddit is actually a really good place for like logo requests and stuff. Like there's a subreddit for it, and like you just DM people, say, hey, this is what I can do for you. You give them an idea, and they're like, yeah, okay. You send them off what you like with a watermark. They, you know, compensate you however they feel or however you feel. And yeah, it's not a bad way to just, you know, practice, because like I don't have a lot of experience, especially professionally, but doing it this way gives me kind of a portfolio to work with. So
we talked a little bit about the website Fiverr, and we talked about how it's maybe not like the best option for professional artists, or even for sort of folks who are trying to become professional.
Yeah.
Can you share a little bit about your experience with that?
So what I found is Fiverr, it's an international platform. So there's graphic designers, or, you know, any industry. Fiverr's for everything, right? There's people on there from all over the country working, but it's all exchanged through American currency.
Okay.
And it's exchanged through their platform, right, or through PayPal. And in some foreign countries, $5, which Fiverr, base price is usually like $5. $5 equates to a lot more for people in other countries. So me working for $5 sounds like a joke, but it's like I can't work for that, but for these people, it's a lot more money. So
Yeah.
Right. I've only ever heard of like folks using it as like on the other end. I've only heard of folks using it as like customers. I've never heard of the experience
Right.
like from sort of the designer end. So I'm glad. Thank you for sharing that.
It does make quite a bit of sense that way. But okay, let's get also, you've mentioned minimalism twice. So start giving the viewers, you obviously have been reading about it or watching things on minimalism. Is there a couple things that have really inspired you this way? You know, kind of throw out a little bit of that.
So before living in the trailer, me and my girlfriend lived in a 3-bedroom, 2.5-bathroom townhouse. And for 2 people, that is too much space. And over the last almost 2 years we lived there, we acquired way too many things. And I was starting to get stressed about it because we had talked about moving just into a smaller space, like just like a bachelor apartment or something like that. And all the things we had were like genuinely stressing me out. And I was like, well, why would having so many things stress me out? And it's because like the constant, excuse you, or bless you, the constant thought of like all of these things I just don't need. And so I started doing research into minimalism and trying to like basically figure out like, what do I really need? What can I, put in storage where I'll only need to access like every, very occasionally, which like we have this very tiny space and it's not cluttered by any means, but we have almost everything we like ever need.
The concept of minimalism is something I'm a hypocritical minimalist. I think in a way I feel that kind of same thing. I've moved across the country several times, right? So I've moved out to Vancouver and drove stuff in a 5x8 trailer, and then I moved back here and it came in a 40-foot trailer. And you think about, kind of the purge that I had before I left felt really, really good. And then when I was out there, realizing that I had to move back, I mean, by no means were our places in Vancouver even, large spaces. We're talking 1,200 square feet. But then you start thinking about, packing up and the stuff that you have, and like literally almost in the compacting of my hoarding, I made it feel like it was minimal. But then you start pulling out these Rubbermaids of things that you really realize you kind of don't need. And I think that the only things that have kind of, continued to come back in my life is like my old artwork. So I hold old things that I did, which by no means look really as good as your wetsuit drawing. There's some pretty embarrassing old artwork there. And I hoard t-shirts, like band shirts, tattoo shirts, tattoo shop shirts. And I have a hard time getting rid of those, and for some odd reason, like electrical cable connector, computer cables, when you've got like all like hey, I got 20 Cat 5 cables, and you realize you don't need some.
I think the second you father a child, you become, something rewires in your brain, and you just become incapable.
I might need this one day, or my children might need this one day. Yeah.
Cables, man. What are they even for?
We have been going through similar things where we've been trying to minimize areas of the house, and those days after you've kind of gotten rid of things, like, man, you do feel a lot lighter. You kind of do realize it's like, wow, that stuff, in a weird way, it weighs you down. Like, so just surrounding yourself with the minimal necessities, in essence, kind of takes up more, less emotion, less mind space, and it gives you more time to think about kind of other things or experience other things. So I have 2 kids and a whole bunch of stuff. I'm never going to end up in a small house unless that shed outside becomes my bedroom one day. But I really, it was inspirational to kind of watch you guys take that jump. I mean, God, you drive a car that's probably larger than your trailer. It was neat to see you move into that, and I am kind of curious to see how it goes through the winter, because this is it is a little bit different here, living in a tiny house or in a house on the lot than it would be on the West Coast. So I'm interested to see how that goes. maybe later in my life I'll end up in a tiny house. You never know. So, Justice.
I don't know. I was just remembering the fact that I started this conversation by bullying you a little bit. And I wanna end it on a different note. So I guess, yeah, it has been really nice to see you sort of grow into your own and really pick up like these sorts of skills and this sorts of lifestyle. It's very exciting to be on this journey with you, Nick. And thank you so much for kind of joining us this morning and showing us the intimate details, including the bathroom of your tiny home.
Yeah. Welcome to Pretty in the Algorithm Cribs. First episode
Nick, that you
done.
Would like to leave the audience off with before we say goodbye?
No.
All right.
They get nothing.
They get nothing. And for all of you, join us tomorrow. You might get something.